Hundreds of drones are now entering from multiple directions at speeds and altitudes that defenses are struggling to track.
And the air defense systems already weakened are unable to systematically engage every incoming threat at once.
Because these drones are not arriving all at once, they are coming in continuous waves designed to stretch defenses over time. And below them, people are already inside shelters, but they have no way of knowing how long this attack will continue. Because the uncertainty is what makes this attack different, not just the scale, but the feeling that it may not end soon. The sky above both cities is now filled with incoming threats that continue to arrive without clear interruption.
Both Tel Aviv and Jerusalem are now experiencing simultaneous strikes as the same wave of attacks unfolds across two cities at once.
It's because the missile defense systems have already been weakened by weeks of sustained pressure before this phase.
And now they are facing a different kind of threat, one that arrives in numbers too large to fully intercept.
And this threat is also designed to be cost-effective, overwhelming defenses while consuming valuable interceptor resources.
While interceptors were being depleted, Iran was preparing a larger coordinated drone deployment for this exact moment. Because this attack was not random, it follows a sequence where earlier strikes reduced defensive capacity before this phase began.
And as the sirens activate again, civilians realize that the danger is not over and more waves are still arriving.
Above them, the sky is still filled with drones, many of which are not being intercepted at all. And this is where the volume of the swarm begins to overwhelm whatever interception capacity remains.
This is the phase of warfare Iran has been building toward, combining earlier missile strikes with a sustained drone assault.
Because a drone swarm is fundamentally different from a ballistic missile campaign in both cost and strategic impact.
A ballistic missile is fast, powerful, and designed to deliver a high-energy strike to a specific target.
But drones operate differently. They move slower but arrive in large numbers, creating a sustained threat over time.
And when these drones are deployed in large numbers, they can force defenders to spend equal or greater resources trying to stop them. Because these drones are being produced at a rate that exceeds the defender's ability to manufacture interceptors. And that imbalance allows sustained attacks to be maintained over longer periods without immediate depletion.
This means the drone swarm is not a backup option, but a planned phase executed at the right moment. Because the earlier ballistic missile campaign was designed to reduce interceptor availability before this phase.
And once those interceptors are drained, and the defensive environment changes completely in favor of the attacker. A drone swarm against a fully stocked system can be managed, but against a depleted system it becomes far more effective. And that is exactly the condition these drones are now operating under over both cities. The primary component of the swarm consists of slower, loitering drones designed for sustained presence.
But these are supplemented by faster variants that create additional challenges for short-range defense systems. And this combination forces defenders to divide their limited resources between multiple types of threats at once.
And when slower and faster drones arrive together, they create a sequencing problem that stretches already limited defenses.
Because defenders must decide which threats to engage first, while new targets continue to appear across the screen.
And while attention is focused on one set of targets, another set can move through the gaps that remain.
The faster drones force rapid reactions that can pull attention away from the slower wave approaching behind them.
And this layered approach ensures that a portion of every wave is likely to reach its target. Because the attack is designed to continue over time, rather than end with a single moment.
For civilians, this is not a single event but an ongoing experience with no clear indication of when it will stop.
And because these drones arrive over extended periods, the threat remains active far longer than a missile strike.
Unlike ballistic strikes, which end quickly, a drone swarm creates sustained pressure over minutes or even hours.
And without a clear endpoint, civilians are left facing ongoing uncertainty as the attack continues to unfold.
The sustained nature of this attack means impacts continue over time, without a clear moment when the danger has passed. And inside shelters, civilians cannot determine how many drones remain or when the final wave will arrive. Because new drones keep entering the airspace, even as previous ones are still impacting across different areas.
The simultaneous targeting of two cities separated by distance reveals a coordinated and precisely timed operation.
Because to achieve this level of simultaneity, the launch timing and routing must be carefully synchronized.
This suggests either multiple launch points or a single coordinated launch separated into distinct routes during flight.
And the result is that drones traveling for hours arrive over separate cities at nearly the same time. This level of coordination reflects a planning process that was developed well in advance, rather than improvised.
Because this attack fits into a broader campaign that has been unfolding in clearly defined stages.
And when viewed together, these phases suggest a structured strategy rather than isolated actions. This sequence suggests a campaign executed in phases, where each step prepares the conditions for the next.
Because earlier strikes on infrastructure have reduced the ability to respond effectively during this phase.
And these conditions increase the overall impact of the drone swarm by limiting coordination and response.
The ability to manage multiple operations at once reflects a high level of planning and execution.
Because these actions are not isolated, they are part of a broader sequence designed to achieve specific outcomes.
And leadership uncertainty during this moment adds another layer of complexity to the situation.
Because effective response depends on clear communication and stable leadership during high-intensity events. And the scale of this event is now drawing international attention across multiple regions.
Because responses from international organizations and governments are beginning to emerge rapidly.
And these responses may influence what happens next as the situation continues to evolve. International responses are now forming rapidly as governments assess the scale and implications of this coordinated attack.
Emergency sessions and urgent statements indicate that this event is being treated as a major escalation point.
Decision makers are now facing a choice between increasing military response or moving toward immediate diplomatic solutions.
Because pressure is building simultaneously from different directions, making delay increasingly difficult to sustain.
And leadership visibility during this moment becomes critical as the situation demands clear direction. Uncertainty around leadership status adds complexity to an already challenging operational environment.
On the ground, the situation remains active, with continued impacts and emergency efforts underway.
One of the key questions now is how many drones remain available for future operations. Current estimates suggest that available inventory may still be significantly larger than what has been deployed so far.
And this raises critical questions about how long this level of sustained pressure can continue moving forward.
Because if current usage remains within sustainable limits, this campaign could continue longer than initially expected. Because the scale of this event suggests that further developments may already be in preparation. And that leads to a critical question about whether this attack represents a peak or only a fraction of what remains.
And the outcome of this situation will depend on how both sides respond in the coming days.
Because this is not just a single event but a moment that could shape the direction of this conflict moving forward.